Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the RACL Geartech Limited Q2 Financial 21-22 Post-Result Investor Conference Call. I'm Shagun Bajpai, Company Secretary Compliance Officer of RACL Geartech, and I shall be your moderator for this call. All the participants may please be informed that this conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as of the date of this call. These statements are not guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participants' lines will be on listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need any assistance during the conference call, you may post your concern, if any, in the question answer box, or you may raise your hand, which is available in the right-hand corner of the screen. Please note that this conference is being recorded. We today with us have the management of RACL Geartech Limited, represented by Mr. Gurcharan Singh, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Devraj Arya, Director and Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Prabh Meher Singh, Vice President, Finance and Operations. We will start with a brief update on the business through a presentation, followed by a question and answer round. I now invite Mr. Gurcharan Singh for his opening remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Shagun. Good afternoon to all my investors and shareholders. On behalf of RACL Geartech, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us on this day. I'll quickly give you a snapshot on our company and then we'll walk through the operational and financial performances. Since there may be some new members, so I'll just give you a brief background of our company. Many of you may be knowing that we are an acclaimed gearing solution provider. We are recognized worldwide for our well-diversified range and product quality. We offer complex solutions in the field of transmission gears, shafts, sub-assemblies, precision machine parts, industrial components, chassis, suspension components, parts for braking components, to provide solutions for premium motorcycles and scooters, 3- and 4-wheeler passenger vehicles. Recently, we started for alternate fuel and hybrid electric cars and fuel cars, medium commercial vehicles, heavy commercial vehicles, tractors, agricultural machinery, off-road vehicles, light cargo vehicles, and recreational vehicles like snowmobiles and sea scooters, etc. So it's brief about our company's presence in the globe. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague, Mr. Prabh Meher Singh, to take you a kind of walkthrough for our financial performance for Q2 and a general update into the business scenario. So, Prabh, over to you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Prabh Meher. I am responsible for operations and business performance. And next half an hour, I will try to run a presentation which will explain. I think we have been getting certain feedbacks that some people want to understand more about the business other than just the numbers which we have been showing in these con calls. So in today's presentation, we have tried to cover certain basic things about the company, which might some of you or most of you would know. But for the ones who are wanting to understand more about our company, so we'll try to run the presentation through some basic about the company. Then we'll cover some numbers relating to what our customers are and what segments we are doing. We'll then talk about the Q2 performance and also the half-year performance numbers for this year. And then some general updates which we would like all of you to know in part of this presentation. So to begin with, it's not beginning. Yeah, sorry. This is a one-page company snapshot. We are into business since 1987. We are having a registered office in New Delhi. We have two plants, two manufacturing locations. One is in Gajraula, which is 100 kilometers from Delhi in the state of Uttar Pradesh. and another is in Noida, which is in the state of Uttar Pradesh, but termed under Delhi NCR region. We have a corporate office in Noida, from where we are right now attending this call. We have a European office as well. We have a subsidiary company by the name RACL Geartech GmbH, and this office we have in Austria for our European customers as a last mile support. All our plants are ISO certified, so ISO 9001. And for automotive compliance, we are IATF 16949 certified. For environment adherence, we are also ISO 14001 certified, and our Gajraula plant is ISO 45001 certified as well, which is occupational safety, health and hazard. So all of these certifications are with us for some years now, and it is clear without these certifications, the business we are into is not possible. Product range wise, all of you know, gears and shafts is our bread and butter. So we do transmission gears, shafts, we do some critical sub-assemblies, sprockets and ratchets. We do basically anything which requires any special precision machining is also done by us. Product application wise, we are pretty diversified to some minuscule presence in the aircraft to three-wheelers, from heavy commercial vehicles to recently entering into passenger cars. ATVs, what we call all-terrain vehicles, is also one of the business product application of our parts. Sales turnover wise, last year, obviously we haven't closed this year. Last year we closed 208 crores, 2021. And employees wise, there are 500 plus employees on the company roll. And obviously there are certain contractuals as well, and that fluctuates as per the demand. So this was just a brief information about the company in terms of who we are and what we do. I mean, we've tried to put some pictures of the parts. So this is how our parts look like. We do some loose gears. We do some, just a second. Yeah. So we do some transmission sub-assembly. The picture you see here is typically a transmission sub-assembly, what we call a gearbox for a motorcycle. Some loose engine timing gears, these go into commercial vehicles. These reduction gears would go into an electric vehicle for a reduction of the torque motor. Sprockets and ratchets, two-wheeler parts basically. Industrial gears are switch circuit breakers and other things which we do. These EV parts we started recently, and some passenger vehicle chassis parts also we have entered. So in terms of product portfolio, we are doing different kinds of parts, some assembly, some loose parts. In totality, we are doing around 500 to 600 kinds of parts every month, and volume wise should be around 700,000-800,000 a month in terms of number of parts we do. Yeah, some pictures of our plant. This is our main Gajraula plant. Though the kind of improvement or growth we do every year, this picture is only a year old, but now it is also old in terms of we have added some new plant here and some new expansions we have done in this area. So in total, we have around 26 acres of land, and this is how the plant looks like, and we have good land available for future expansion. This is our Noida plant in Sector 63. It is smaller in size, and we have a smaller team, around 50 plus people looking at this plant. And this is our small office, which we recently opened in Austria, and we have got a couple of people posted there for providing last minute support to our customers in Europe. Europe being our biggest market, that is why this office came into existence 2 years back. List of our customers, some we have tried to put into the application wise. So in terms of two-wheelers, we are working with BMW Germany, KTM Austria, Piaggio. We are working for India and Italy, Vietnam as well. TVS, again an Indian two-wheeler manufacturer, Yamaha India, Kawasaki India. Moto Guzzi is a Piaggio brand, but we are supplying directly to Italy for their motorcycle. For tractors and agricultural machinery, Kubota is a Japanese manufacturer of tractors. We are exporting to their Japan, Thailand, US regions. SDF is Same Doshfar. It's an Italian company, and they have a plant in India also. So we're supplying both of their locations. Escorts Kubota is a joint venture between Indian Escorts and Kubota. So we are working with them also for the Indian application. And recently we added Escorts also for the domestic application as well. Piaggio is our oldest customer, and for their three-wheeler application, we are working with them for many years now. And two-wheeler also we are working here. This is recreational vehicle, what we call ATVs. So BRP is a Canadian company having plants in Austria and Mexico. So we are supplying to them, and Kubota again for some recreational objects. They have grass.
Rural transport.
Rural transport, yes.
For US.
MEN Trucks for commercial vehicles, SML Isuzu, Indian company, joint venture with Isuzu. We are supplying for their plants in India. MEN is Germany. Recently, we added ZF. Through ZF, we are working with BMW and Porsche as the passenger cars, which our products will start going. And in industrial, we're working with General Electric, Kohler, and Schneider. So overall, you can see we have a pretty diversified customer base, different product application with the company. We are exporting to 11 countries worldwide, including China. So right from US to Japan, our products are going globally. And as you know, we're an export dominating organization. Around 70% of what we produce, we sell in export market, and rest is for domestic market. So this is how the world map looks like. Okay, so this was regards to the overall company, what we do, what we are. Now we will talk about the Q2 numbers. So this quarter, ending September 30th, we did a sales of 69.52 crores, and the domestic sales was around 16 crores, and 49 crores was export sales. And other is other income and other non-operating income, which is part of the total number. What we sold, around 71% was exports and 29% was domestic. And this is for half year numbers, not the quarter numbers. So from April 1st to September 30th, the total contribution to two-wheeler 50% is the breakup of what we sold. Out of 69 crores, 50% went to two-wheelers, 20% was tractors and agricultural vehicles, 18% was recreational vehicles, and 5% three-wheeler, and 5% industrial, PV and others, 2% commercial vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was in terms of the business breakup in terms of the second quarter. Year on year, if you compare the results, so the sales wise, we grew around 40% if you compare same quarter last year. In terms of EBITDA, we grew around 17%. So we did 15.85 crores this quarter, ending 30th September. And we did 13.5 crore in last year, same quarter. Profit before tax grew by 21% from 8.13 crore to 9.83 crore. We did profit before tax for second quarter. This is Q1 versus Q2. So same year, the growth in sales was around 21%. EBITDA margins improved by 19%, and profit before tax improved by around 41%. Half-yearly results, if you compare last year 6 months, this year 6 months, sale has grown by 74%. My profitability has grown by 58%, and my profit before tax actually has doubled around, so from 8.8 crores to 16.7 crores. So very encouraging numbers in terms of if you compare last year. Obviously, last year you can say you had a low base effect for COVID, but second quarter was generally okay as compared to what we usually do. So this growth, even if you discount that, still is good in terms of how we are placed within the other industries. This was the numbers. Obviously, these numbers, I'm sure you would have done these calculations because these are available. But just to highlight whatever the growth was, we've done this. Some other key highlights, which were notable updates, which we want to share with the investors and shareholders is. This is a very big achievement for us that this year's credit rating, when we went for, we have got an upgrade. So for the long-term debts, our rating is now A-, and for short-term debts, it's A2. So we got a one-notch upgrade. And I think we are entered the A list for the first time. And if you go to the past company which was under bankruptcy 10, 11 years back, coming to a A-grade credit rating speaks volumes about the hard work the team has put in. So this was one thing which we are actually very proud of. We want to upgrade this and improve this with the coming years. But now we are somewhere in the A-list companies, which I'm sure not many would be there. We received an award or a recognition from Dun & Bradstreet under the SME category. I think they categorized us as one of the business enterprises of tomorrow. So this, I think, was a pool of companies they audited, and they had their own criteria of selecting this. So I think
in auto component there are only two companies.
Yes.
One was us and one was another.
Correct. So in auto components, we were the only one and one another. This was again one highlight which we wanted to bring to all of you. This question some of you asked, I think we've gone through the questionnaire. So we were talking about some EV scooter parts which we were wanting commercial supplies to start. That has started, and now our parts are going to that customer. For confidentiality, we checked, we cannot disclose the name, but this is an export customer, and these parts are now actually being assembled in vehicle, and parts scooters are running with our parts on the road somewhere. So this production has started. At customer end, assembly has started. ZF and MAN, two big investments which we did last year in terms of
Disclose.
Launch
has occurred now.
a launch has occurred.
Occurred, yeah. Now we can disclose.
Yeah. So ZF and MAN, the sample submission is going smooth. Our parts are actually being now run in certain cars and trucks for these validations which are going on. So the SOP of this project is June 22 at customer end. So it would SOP. Okay, SOP means start of production. So start of production has started in this EV scooter. I've just been told that we can disclose the name.
This is disclosed.
And it is BMW scooter for which we have backed this order, and we are working. So the CE0.
And I will add some more value. It is BMW Germany has launched this scooter on 1st November, and this model is now on YouTube. You can really see model is CE04.
Yeah. So
it is a 25 kilowatt motor EV scooter, and probably one of the largest EV two-wheeler in the world. And
in terms of the batteries.
in the motor size, a 25 kilowatt motor. And it is equivalent to a 500 cc fuel scooter. And highlights further are that this is a water-cooled motor and having all state-of-the-art facilities. And this product is already on European roads from 1st November. And I'm proud to say that our parts are now actually rolling on German roads for EV scooter. Yes, Prof.
Yeah. So ZF and MAN, the SOP or the start of production will be June 22. So this means my production will start February somewhere, because there is a C time as well. So there is a transit time. So things are okay, on track. Apart from this, we are in discussion. As of now, we cannot disclose the names, but with an Indian two-wheeler manufacturer for some EV parts, they are going to launch some EV scooter in India, and we are working very actively with them. Along with that, we're also working with a German car manufacturer for some steering and suspension components. So as of now, majority of our parts are, you can call engine parts or transmission parts. On the suspension and steering side, our presence is less. So now we are, as a diversification or de-risking strategy, moving towards these things. So these discussions which are going on, if they materialize, we will definitely update you all. But these are some of the few things which we wanted to bring to your notice, and this is how things are moving internally. This is one slide which we have prepared again in anticipation of certain questions we have received. So this question comes up regarding the EV. How are you placed? What are your risks? And what are the future discussions? So we've tried to pull out a number. So this year, which we will close 31st March 2022, our IC, internal combustion engine based business, will be around 96%. 3% parts will be in the IC engine, but these are chassis and suspension parts. So what it means is, if tomorrow these bikes or cars or whatever convert into the electric thing, these parts will still remain, because these might be some disc mounts or brake items or suspension chassis items which do not change with the type of power is being used. So this 96% is pure IC, 3% is not subject to any change. This 1% EV is this scooter which we told you about. So this 1% will be there this year. Next year, so next financial year, April 1st, 2022 to 31st March 23, you see again our exposure to IC will reduce to 82%, and around EV will grow to 4%, and 8% will be the chassis and suspension items. So when you say chassis and suspension, this will not be any risk because of fuel change. So this is how, obviously, I have further years numbers as well, but we just want to discuss the next couple of years. So we have a confirmed strategy, how we are planning to move ahead, this 500 crore vision, how we are making sure that we're not actually totally growing with the fuel based only. So this is how the de-risking things we are doing. So this was, I think, the crux of the presentation. And now I think we can move to the questionnaires which we have received. So as we always do, we will first try to answer the questions which we have received from you all via email. And then if there's any extempo questions, then we try to answer that. So Shagun, maybe we can choose.
First, I think you can take up Sahil.
Yeah, so this is not in order of any preference. This is just how the list has been prepared. So maybe can we start with Mr. Sahil Sharma? Sahil, you asked us 4 questions, but if you could ask only a couple and just highlight any important question, because this time, I don't know, a lot of people have so many queries. So we won't be to answer all questions for everyone, but any one important or 2 questions which you would ask. So if you could unmute Mr. Sahil Sharma, please.
Dipanshu, Mr. Sahil Sharma.
Sahil is there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Sahil.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Hi, sir. Yeah, congratulations on a great set of numbers. I'll ask a couple of questions. The first one is, when we look at one of the big reasons that, RECL, such a small company that we are preferred by all the, luxury bike makers. One of the reasons that we can see from your commentary and also reading is that, even when clients ask for 100 ppm error, we ensure the quality is maintained even below 25 ppm. So that quality, definitely high precision, is something that we're able to do very well. One thing I wanted to understand is, like, what does it take to do this? Like, in terms of process or technology, like, is it a culture thing? Is it the correct hiring? Is it technology? Can you comment a little bit, like, what does it take to maintain this high quality standard?
Actually, I always say to all the fraternity that quality is a thing which cannot be injected into the product. It has to be basically a way of life. So, if anybody has a chance to visit our factory, so we have put a slogan at the gate: quality starts here. So when it's a term quality, it is the people, it is the technology, it is the way we think, the way we work, it is the way we follow the systems, and it does not build overnight. It needs a long and sustained journey to achieve this. And if we have to really produce a good quality, were to take care of our people. So first and foremost important is we take care of our people so that they remain dedicated, motivated, and committed towards doing a good job. And we provide them good infrastructure to work over there. Because even in peak summer temperature, when the northern part of India is shivering at under 45 degrees of temperature, we have air-cooled workshops, we have air-conditioned workshops where people work with cool money. Third is matching technology, because we have one of the best technologies. So it is basically three main things: a very well-groomed workforce, very good infrastructure, very good technology, and last one is fully supported by systems. Until unless there is a complete discipline in following the written guidelines and principles, so these three things comes fertile. So these four pillars are actually the strength of our RSCL, and in fact, not only RSCL, for any of the business to grow. If it has to be a inclusive growth, these four pillars have to be taken care of. This is how we really move forward. And really, we feel happy that yes, our customers are quite satisfied. Yes, Sahil, so you asked for two questions, or maybe one more question you can ask.
Yes, sir. Just second one, sir. We have heard in the previous con calls that, like, if you look at the EV gears, they would be sort of higher margin. And from what we can figure out, an EV bike might have fewer gears, but the requirement for precision is much higher, and so the margins will be much higher. I'm wondering, like, now that you have actually started supplying, can you actually disclose any sort of numbers in terms of, like, is it how much higher the margins are? Or
Sahil, I think you maybe I was not able to clarify clearly or not able to say clearly. When I say it's not the margins, I say it is actually higher value addition. Typically in AV gears in precision class is there, so the raw material content goes very light. So value addition is very high. So margins, I feel you mean to say about the profit margins. Profitability remains the same because customer will give extra profits, but value addition really goes high. And to say on the numbers, I will just give you a rough idea from where you can work out that how our value addition goes on. And when I say for EV, we do not do for EV only the gears, some assemblies and some critical parts for in EV, like in IC engine, there are the gears. In EV, we call it a drivetrain or the drive kinematics. So we're doing a lot of drive kinematics. Just to give you an example, for a fuel IC engine, for one particular motorcycle, we are supplying a complete package for gears at a rate of around $140, which in rupee value is around 11,000 rupees. For this EV, our package still remains around 11,000 rupees. So our value addition per vehicle is almost the same. Number of parts have reduced. For a IC engine, number of parts are almost maybe 40 parts, and for EV, there are maybe 7 or 8 parts only, or 10 parts. So this is how the value addition has really increased, and I hope I am able to answer your question. So this is how, for EVs, we have really tried to diversify. EV, there will not be engines or crankshafts or cranking rods, but still there will be a lot of rotating parts, and which needs lots of precision. Because in EV, noise is a very, very important parameter. So this is how we are trying to diversify as well as keep our value addition per vehicle either at par or at higher price.
sir, if you can
clarify your answer. Huh?
If you can allow just one quick follow-up on your answer. You've said that number of parts will go down from like 40 to 7 or 8.
Yeah, this is just example. I'm not saying as a benchmark. Therefore,
Just example. Just example. It might be from 40 to some X, which is lower. My only question is, in that way, is it the case that our asset turnover will be higher, meaning with the same machinery, we can produce more parts, like basically, is that the case?
It is too early to say anything. Prabha has already shared with you, next year will be only 4% of the entire kitty. So it will not really reflect very grossly immediately, but yes, over the years of time, how this EV business really takes forward, and it's too early to predict anything. But yes, we made a humble beginning, and it's progressing in a
Because to add, Sahil, when we say EV, it doesn't mean we are not positive on the IC engine as well. Because if the same customer is giving projections for electric scooter, his fuel-based bikes
still are having the growth, yeah.
growth for next 10 years. So this is like a stepping stone in the EV. You should not be caught sleeping if the world moves, but we are very positive that this IC engine is going to stay for at least next 10 years. And this is how we are not just for the sake of it investing everything there and just wanting to upgrade everything. No, it will always be parallel, and this is how our customers are also reacting to this thing, and we are also cautiously moving similarly like that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so I think can we have next question by Miss Manisha Gupta?
Manish Gupta.
Sorry, Mr. Manish Gupta.
Manish Gupta.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
So could you just, you explained, your sources of edge. You said it's quality, how you train your people, how you take care of your people, and then you mentioned technology. Could you explain, sir, what is this edge in technology and how is that edge been created?
The biggest thing is, any of the customer wants solution under one roof. And gear business or this precision components business is a very, very complex product. There is actually plethora of processes available throughout the globe. So RACL has been actually very unique in defining our strategies for last 10 years, that we invested on the global technologies and build up a completely integrated setup under one roof. You can produce gears by n number of processes. So we have all the processes available within our company. Reason is that our company produces a very low-end three-wheeler component, and we produce some parts for aircraft also. So eventually we have technologies which suit every product, which suits every customer, and which suits every product requirement or the customer demand. So we have really created a kind of conglomerate of all the technologies available. And as I said earlier also, this doesn't happen overnight. This is a long sustained effort strategy, which we grew about 15 years back. RACL was the first manufacturer to export gears to Japan in year 2005. So you can understand the vision of RACL. And in those days, company was literally back. It just came out of bankruptcy. But even then, we drew this strategy. Okay. And from there on, we are investing the way customer is demanding, because we always invested judiciously, but we invested with open heart. Whatever customer demanded, we started investing in it. And of course, every customer had different expectation, different demands. So this is how we created this technology. Now, once technology is there, we offer to all the customers. And while choosing the technology, we always invest on the technology unless we have the product. We do not invest on technology. And by and by, we invest in technology, which is a general purpose kind of technology. It's not dedicated for a particular product or a particular process. So this is how we have been very, very selective in investing judiciously, but still creating a vast, wider availability of all the processes within our company. And customer wants, because for X process, he wants to A customer supplier, and for Y process, if he goes to B supplier and C supplier, then it doesn't satisfy him. He comes to us and we providing all solutions. He's happy, we are happy, and we are able to grow continuously with this strategy. I hope I'm able to clarify your answer. Huh?
So unfortunately not, sir. So I'll just, is my understanding right that when you say you have created technologies, that you will be able to do something with far better precision compared to somebody else?
Yeah.
So is my understanding right, therefore, that it is more that you have become experts in precision engineering using a commonly a set of tools and machines. You can do that better than anyone else because of the expertise in the process or whatever you've developed. Is that understanding right?
Partially it is correct. Partially I will add again, although I said I will again say that, to do a particular job, there are many processes available and both are doing equal precision, but customers have a different expectation. Some customer wants, I should be able to do, he wants the process as the process A. Other customer comes process B, other customer comes process C. And third customer comes, he wants two product of process A, two product of process B and two product of process C. There are many manufacturers in India who have the technology, but not many manufacturers who are having all the technologies under one roof. So with us, the benefit comes that customer, whatever he needs, we already have it. Because if he
Got it.
wants two different processes or three different processes, we're able to offer him all three. Our other counterparts or our competitors or our co-manufacturers, they may not have that flexibility with them. So customer gets more confident or more trustworthy with us. He feels, yes, we are a company under single window, he gets all the solutions. This is a kind of USP which we have created.
Okay, so this is clear. If I may ask two more questions, sir.
Yeah.
One is, what part of your revenue comes from co-development of products with customers? And the second question is that, our inventory days seem to be much higher than, a lot of the generic auto component peers. So could you explain what aspect of the business model requires you to maintain more inventory?
Reason is that we are a premium market. Huh?
But I think when you say it has increased, what are your benchmarks? Because if you compare last year versus this year, as inventory has reduced actually in terms of days. So,
Okay,
if you
so,
compare last year numbers.
Sorry, so my point was not that it has increased. I'm saying if you look at a lot of your peers, their inventory days might be 1 month
I
to 2
will
months.
answer you. Reason is that we are, as our business model is, we are into premium segment niche market. We're having large variety of parts with small to mid volumes. Okay. So eventually, when we have to produce small to mid, like I'm producing, say 800 different parts, variety of components I'm producing. It's not that entire 800 variety I'm producing every month. Some month I'm producing X components of 100 pieces of X variety. Next month, 100 pieces of X variety, Y variety, Z variety. So I have to maintain certain minimum inventory levels of our raw materials and WIPs. Because this is our USP. Because as I told, we are doing premium segment niche market where volumes are not very high. A typical two-wheeler in manufacturer in India produces 600,000 vehicles in a month or 200,000 vehicles in a month. Our customer produces 100,000 vehicles in a year.
Yeah, very clear. Very clear.
Number of gears in a two-wheeler, whether it's 600,000 or it is 50,000 or 10,000, number of gears will be the same. But still I have to make revenue. So I am having, that's the reason you find that we have 20 active customers, 20 different brands. So eventually we have a large variety. So we have to keep inventories of the tooling, inventories of raw parts. But our product costing has built in all this. Because if we are having inventory, it's not that we are not charging it to a customer, we are charging the same to the customer also. So our product costing has a built-in feature for these higher inventories. But as a mass market customers and suppliers, your observation is right, that our inventory days will be higher. But I'm saying as a mass market supplier, if you really benchmark us to the similar high variety and small volume suppliers, will still be better than the industry.
But even in inventory only.
Very clear, sir. Very clear. And my second question, sir, was that what portion of the revenue comes from co-development of products with customers?
This depends on year basis. Like last year was a windfall. We had, I think, 6-7%, 8%, but normally it is 2-3% counts. But it depends on year what kind of product we are developing and what kind of is coming in. But it's not a fixed benchmark. But it's not very big number. It is mainly our main product comes from main revenue comes from the sale of product only.
Okay. So
Thank you, Manish. Thanks for good questions being asked for you. Yeah.
Thank
then
you.
we have Mr. Manjeet Buaria. Yeah, I hope I pronounced that.
I think he's not joined.
Okay, so Mr. Manjeet has not joined. Can we have Mr. Dhruv Galada?
Dipanshu, please unmute Mr. Dhruv Galada.
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. So my question is, you had earlier shared your vision of 500 crore revenue and 80 to 100 crores of profit after tax by FY25. Can you please elaborate on your roadmap to achieve that? And what are the main factors which have to fall into place to be able to achieve this goal? What are the key hurdles you see on the way? And the second part to this is also, in what ways this growth likely to impact the balance sheet in terms of the cash conversion cycle and debt to equity ratio the next 3 to 5 years?
So I'll answer you one by one. First of all, you asked the hurdles. To be very honest, this 500 clear roadmap is very clear to us. We already have almost tied up consolidated business for this. So we do not see any hurdle. Only hurdle is, I do not know, after Omicron, there are still many alphabets left in Greek alphabets. So I do not know when this corona thing will go away, because this may create certain disruptions, but it will not be RSL specific, it will be industry specific, or I'll say the globe specific. But otherwise, we are very clear with the roadmap that our 500 crores revenue has to come, because we already have the tied up business, if not tied up, at least under advanced stage of serious discussions. And this increased revenue has to, you already wrote this question to email also. So we have all the three different growth journeys. First of all, same product means existing customers, existing product, year on year, even European customers are also growing these days 6, 7, 8% year on year. We have added two major customers, like you all are aware, ZF and MN Trucks. So that is going to add, at least by year 2025, at least 20-25% of our revenue will come from these two major customers by financial year 25. So this is how, and of course, then we are a little bit diversifying also. And this EV thing also is coming, because we feel EV as an opportunity, not as a replacement, because, okay, how the media may project it or how the world may move. But I personally feel for next 5-6 years, EV will be additional business opportunity. Instead of eating up the fuel business, it will add up to the additional business, because every fuel bike maker or every fuel car maker is adding EV vehicles without compromising their numbers on the fuels. So we feel that at least for next 3-4 years, these things have to really grow. And I think this was your question, or any other thing is left by me?
Yes, sir. My second part was about the effect on balance sheet in terms of the cash conversion cycle and debt to equity ratio for the next 3 to 5 years. Like, what will the impact of growth be on?
Debt equity, even as on today, if you feel, we are very, very, very comfortable zone, because even as per industry benchmark, it is 1 to 1.5 should be there. But I think we are 0.98 or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And so debt equity ratio will remain almost the same, because we are, of course, we are a capital intensive industry, because even in my earlier address, I told we continuously invest on technologies. So we need to keep on investing on new technologies, but of course, with year on year, we are repaying also. So net debt increasing into the balance sheet will definitely not so high. But yes, I don't foresee any net debt reduction, of course. There will be always some net debt increase. But debt to turnover ratio, or debt to equity ratio will always remain comfortable, will not be going 1:1.5. But asset to turnover ratio, our target is to go to, and I think now we are 1.3?
1.4.
1.4. So we'll really see how fast we grow it. But yes, we'll otherwise much nearer to our targets, or whatever we are doing today, otherwise better than this. But as I explained, that is a continuous requirement of the company. And but repayment, we are maintaining very strict fiscal discipline, and our serviceability of debt is always over 1.8 or so. So that's the reason that we are not really too worried by this fact. And as our repayments will be very, very high, so net debt increase will be very, very nominal.
Okay.
I
Got
hope
it,
I'm
sir.
able to clarify. Huh?
Yes, sir. Just when I was talking about hurdles, I was trying to understand whether like all the new customers which you have gotten. So is it possible that this business will not scale up as expected? Are there hurdles in that aspect? That's what I wanted to say.
Look, Dhruv, actually, I tell you, our customers are much, much bigger in terms of numbers and size. You know, if they launch a product, they have such a strong forecast mechanism that there are not any chances of decline of business. You know, companies like Porsche or BMW or KTM, they are world's brands. They will not speak any numbers until they are very clear. So that way, I'll say I am too small a person in terms of their sizes. If their forecast can go wrong, so definitely my forecast also will go wrong more better. So for me, I rely on their forecast, and our experience working with these customers is because we're working with them for last 15 years. Any of the customer, we have not seen any customer declining. We are always seeing whatever they are projected, they are always done the same or marginally higher. They have never reduced. And I feel the same trends will go on. But you know, if there are any global disruption comes, so nobody can really take care of those things. Because in year 2020, if this COVID thing came for 3 months, the whole of world was stopped. So for everything was stopped. But moment the COVID thing diluted, you have seen the automotive has first to grow. So that way, I don't feel much disruptions except some Holocaust happening or any such thing.
Okay. So thanks,
Makes
Mr.
sense.
Dhruv, can we unmute Mr. S. Manikanda if he's available?
So Monica, yes.
Dhruv, please, Dipanshu, please unmute Mr. Manikanda Prabhu.
Is it the same person?
Hello, sir. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity given. I have two queries. One is regarding the revenue split up. Actually, from the past 5 years, the revenue has been growing in the export direction, like around 50 to 71% revenue has came from export. So is this the plan to expand further in the revenue in export direction alone, or it is included in domestic as well? So that is my first question. And my second question is like recently the acquisition has happened between Kubota and Escort. So is this impact, is this any revenue impact in since supply as given from RACL Geartech? So is there any impact will happen in terms of revenue for our company? So this is what my two queries.
I will answer you. In fact, both the questions are complementing each other. So I will answer your second question first. You know, Kubota has done a strategic alliance with Escorts, and now technically, I think another couple of months it will be a joint venture Escorts Kubota. So for us, it's a very, very big opportunity. It's not impact, it is an opportunity because we have already got a very, very big business opportunity from Escorts Kubota. So this will increase our domestic market presence because, you know, we were actually, to be very honest, our own focus is that we should be about 30 to 35% should remain our domestic and 65 to 70% should be our export business. But in domestic, unfortunately, our three-wheeler business was really getting little bit impacted. But this Escorts Kubota is a very, very big opportunity available to us. So it has not impacted negatively, rather it has given us a positive growth. As far as our exports business to Kubota worldwide is there, that is going on as per the same principles and with the same growth trajectory. In fact, in last 6 months, even after forming of the joint venture with Escorts Kubota, we have got many, many global orders from Kubota worldwide. So both of things are complementing us, and rather in coming years you will see our domestic market will, in fact, which had declined in terms of percentage because since our export business grew, so domestic, we never reduced domestic market in terms of absolute numbers. Absolute numbers we are always growing, but percentage was going down because our export growth was much higher. But this is a Scott Kubota business coming in our kitty. This domestic market will also improve, and rather this 500 crore journey, Scott's Kubota also has a big role to play into this.
And I think TVS also, what you recently.
Yeah, and TVS has started this year. That will also add a lot of domestic business volumes in coming years.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. My last query. Actually, the revenue can be gone through in two ways, like either by increasing scale up the volume, another one is optimizing the efficiency of the process. So, is the opportunity available in both the terms now, or the optimization has been done already at the max level, like only the revenue scale up only the available, like in which way we are focusing in future? For increasing the revenue.
First of all, I will say improvement is a never-ending process. We can never say that optimization is done. Further optimization is not possible, because now I'm speaking as an engineer's perspective, not as a managing director's perspective, because I'm unfortunately or fortunately an engineer also. So as an engineer, we always say improvement has no end. Improvement is a continuous process. And as you said, that improving the PAT or the bottom line, of course, important is the top line, but most important is your optimization of resources, because there are many companies who insist, who figure only top line, and they are totally haywire on optimization of resources. Those companies do not have a good bottom line. So we, of course, take care of the top line, but our real focus is on optimization of our resources, our efficiencies, and there is a continuous focus. That is the reason that in terms of top line, we may not be one of that top, but in terms of bottom line, in terms of percentage, I think we are second to none. We are the industry benchmark. So this is how our focus is, and this is our strategy is going to remain for future also.
And also, when the COVID was there, eventually a lot of people were in the red, and despite no sales growth, actually degrowth last year, our profits remained. So efficiency or optimization has always been our hardcore basis. So that is why you see a bankrupt company coming to this level is only because of in the culturally, somebody asked quality consciousness. So quality is not only with the product which we sell, it is also about how we do things internally, and that is how it is converted into the product. So all systems, resources we efficiently use, and that is always been our endeavor. That obviously cannot be, that has to keep improving.
As you want to make it, we have made it a way of life. Each and every employee in the company thinks the same way the top management is thinking. And this is a collective benefit due to a collective effort due to which we have been able to really create better numbers at all levels.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Prabhu. Now can we...
sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Actually, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, can we now unmute Mr. Devesh?
Devesh
Shrimali.
Shrimali.
Devesh.
Dipanshu, Mr. Devesh.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. Most of my questions have been answered. Just one more qualitative comment, if you could help. So the way our core business is doing very well, we are well positioned, and like you called out that EV would be a top up on the main business. Plus, we are winning new customers and things like that, right? So, do you think this 500 crore top line guidance that you have provided, there is a positive side surprise as well possible the way we are going? Just a qualitative direction.
So you mean if we achieve more than 500 before 2025?
Yeah, the way, the new business like Escort Kubota deal coming in and the EV sort of topping it up, was it part of your original strategy of 500, or do you think some of these would sort of help us go ahead of our plans?
While we develop a 5-year roadmap, so, we always have to keep some buffer for extra windfalls and some cushion for failures. Okay, because everything you project and it doesn't mean that everything will go the same way. Same way, we have to always create some buffers for some windfall opportunities which we never plan it out. So this is a mixture of both the things. But while we strategize these things, we always see that how much we should create a buffer and how much we should keep a cushion for failures. So if you keep a buffer of 50% or cushion of 20%, then you are not going to have very, very realistic numbers. So we always have some cushion because, with this Escorts Kubota thing, okay, world has known maybe 1 year or so, but since we were supplier to Escorts Kubota, we had these informations 5 years back because when the top management was visiting India to look out the sources, so many other places I visited along with them. So, our relation with particularly this customer is so strong that we are working with them for the last 16 years. They did not know even an iota about Indian market. So we had these informations before time also. That's the reason while doing this 2025 journey. So we already had these things. Yes, this business will come. This EV thing, yes, of course, it is quite new. But even this EV which I have discussed with you, launch has been in November. You'll be surprised I got this order in 2018. It took almost 3 years for the vehicle to be tested. And since we have announced today that this EV is a BMW EV, you understand, this is one of the biggest scooter. So, and this is the first big product launch with them. You can imagine how much testing they might have done. So this journey was started 3 years back. So of course we know that in these years, now we will have this number. So definitely while deciding this 2025 roadmaps, some indications are already there and we have equally aligned them. But of course, we always, as I explained, we keep some buffer also and some cushion also.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you.
I think we've already completed 4:30, but we have some questions from this
some audience if you have.
Q&A panel. So I'll try and read if we can answer. So Mr. Karan wants to know that we had very strong performance in H2 last year with 130 crores revenue and 12% PAT. How does the H2 outlook in terms of revenue and margin look like, given the RM volatility over the last 1 to 2 questions? I think if you compare the H1, we did around 127 odd crore. This year, I believe, this H2, next 6 months, we believe we should be able to do around 10-15% better than this first H1. And that is how the total year-end sale should look like. Numbers are good. In terms of margins, it is not appropriate to comment, but obviously we have to improve and not deteriorate. That is the idea behind coming to office every day. How do we see margins in EV? This, I think, has been answered. Mr. Anup wants to know, we as a company have come a long way from bankruptcy to now. What gives the drive?
You can unmute some people if they have any questions. Instead of reading the questions.
Okay, so can you unmute Mr. Anup?
Yeah, let them ask so that others can ask.
Dipanshu, unmute Mr. Anup.
Yeah, that is right.
Hi, sir. My name is Anu. Thank you for taking my question.
Yeah.
We have come a long way as a company from bankruptcy to now. So I just wanted to understand what drives you now, because when your back is against the wall, you will push harder. Now everything is so good. Okay, like what drives you? Okay, and in the direction which you want to take it up. And the second question is, who do you idealize as in terms of a company, and they are your role model, and you want to take your company in that direction?
Okay, so my first question I'll answer you. I always say to my people, Many people have climbed Mount Everest, but very few have been, not even one has been able to spend the night at Mount Everest. You know, it is easier to climb, but the air gets thinner. So until unless you are really very headstrong to remain over there, one cannot. So our own strategy from the top management is that there is no room for complacency, because if after doing such a hard work, if we have been able to make a bankrupt company to a company with a glory, and if we again start sliding down, so people will fail. People will feel that this glory was by chance. It was not the earned glory. So we have to really prove to the world that yes, it was the earned glory. We have not done this glory by chance. So definitely it will, as a company strategy, we will really keep on working harder. So we were not, earlier we were just pushed against the wall, but now we are not pushed against the wall. Now we are really, we are pushing the wall. So that way, you know, but this is a strategy which has to work. You know, eventually, I will say, per se, if you personally ask me, professionally ask me, I am a first generation entrepreneur. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. So for me, life is only one. So if I made certain efforts along with our team members, we could achieve certain thing. If we go down from there, people will not remember our success. People will remember our failures. So definitely I have to ensure that whatever successes we have achieved, we further improve it. Okay. So this is how it will work. And what was your second question?
What do you feel are role models in auto ancillaries?
Yeah, but although I should learn from this politicians and film industry, but I just feel, I really see that I benchmark ourselves to the companies at the level of Motherson and Sumi or so, which are really I have to learn a lot from Mr. Chand. I do not know how he's handling more than 16,000 crores turnover from 50 odd locations and 12 or I think 18 countries. So that is my benchmark. Maybe in my lifetime we'll be able to get some further benchmarks from them. But these kind of companies which are very professionally managed and with a very, very broad outlook. So these are our benchmarks and we have to learn from them.
Yeah, so I think we can.
For answering my question. All the best for the future quarters.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is answered. This is answered. Recent lockdown in European countries, what is the impact on the business?
Okay, Vivek, can you unmute?
Yeah. Mr. Vivek Chadha.
I think small question only, so you can answer.
Yeah. So Vivek, I will answer your question. First of all, this lockdown, although what we see in Indian media is a little exaggerated. Actually, in Europe, lockdown is not that businesses are stopped. All industries are running, all offices are running. Lockdown is only for those restaurants and shops and the evening pub cultures and all. So otherwise, all our customers, they are working day in, day out. So lockdown is not actually impacting our industry per se. Of course, there are sometimes just temporary disruptions of that people get corona positive, so then they have to quarantine over there and that. But there are some limited cases because every OEM or every European manufacturer has a very, very strict protocol on the person getting COVID positive. So those issues do come. So sometimes some escapism or some such things come. Otherwise, the industry is running fully. Industry is not closed. I hope I am able to answer your question.
Yeah, sir. Thank you for taking this question. And I do have one more question. So as we can see that, we are having a debt increasing quarter on quarter. So any plan to reduce the debt?
I already clarified that debt is our need and that is not a bad thing for us. We are, debt is not bad. Debt serviceability should be good. So our industry norms, we are better than the benchmark. Debt equity is 1:1.5, we are at 0.98. Bankers say that DSCR debt serviceability should be 1.33, we are at 1.8. So both wise, we are totally safe. And that is a continuous process, but as I explained earlier in my discussions, we will be borrowing fresh, but definitely we will be repaying also. So some debt increase, nominal debt will keep on happening, but in terms of turnover increase in percent numbers, debt may also be actually showing reducing.
Yeah, because our no, even the interest costs year on year are going
Yeah, year on year is going, interest cost is going down. So end of the day, there should be fiscal discipline.
Interest coverage ratios are improving. And in any case, with this now A- ratings, things should look more good on the interest side. So yeah, that way we're quite.
Okay, so maybe we can pick one last question and close it.
Yes, I'm seeing an important question. Which question should we pick?
We already answered. Yeah, yes, I have two questions. Can you please unmute him? Anirudh Shetty.
So, he's smart and not writing the question.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Shetty.
Yeah. So, Mr. Shetty, you are the best one to answer the last question.
Thank you for this opportunity. So two questions. First question was, you touched upon how we are actually a precision engineering company, and we also do air defense and aircraft. So one specific question is, how do we see this aircraft air defense business segment evolving for us in the future, and also what other industries could we possibly do in the future? Because we have the engineering capabilities, and it's a matter of time before which we enter it and prove our credentials there as well.
I will answer. This aircraft business, our strategy, we formed this strategy about 3-4 years back to enter into civil aviation aircraft business. But civil aviation aircraft business was very, very tough to enter. Then we found the easier way to start doing at least this O&M of military and Air Force business, because those at least learning curve was easier. We started doing business, some minuscule business was happening, but unfortunately the civil aviation got first hit because of this COVID thing. So that strategy has now technically gone into back burner kind of thing. So, and in between this growth of chassis components and all those, our automotive business really became more pressing. So we reduced the focus also on this civil aviation, because frankly, after this COVID, as you know, even until now, this civil aviation is still the worst hit, and we do not know what will be the road to recovery. So I'll be very honest that right now it is not on our real focus area, but this O&M of military and Air Force, but minuscule, we are doing. We are still,
so we are approved vendors.
Yeah,
So
we're still working on it.
But in terms of, I think your other question, what other industries can you think? So I think apart from automotive, there is medical, there is railways, and this. In those things, we have no plans. So we will remain in this. But yes, product application wise, as you already told our journey, that is how we are planning to grow in whatever automotive their opportunities are.
Got it. And so my second question is, at 500 crores top line, assuming we get there by 2025, wanted to understand how will our economics look like? What will our gross profit margin, our EBITDA margin, our asset turns, our working capital days, kind of shape up over the next 4 years like?
If you talk about numbers financially, it will not be a right thing to project, because guidance is one thing, but giving accurate margins for next 5 years would call for certain stock market provisions. But obviously, what we are doing now in terms of margins or in terms of customer base, my new customers will not be bringing me higher margins, or they will not be bringing me something else on the table. So obviously, I have to make the things in the same way. So same input costs will be there into it. So in terms of my per part profitability should not change much. It's just that how my overheads behave, what are my salary levels in next 5 years, what are my other fixed costs which will increase because of, other than the debt, because of expansion. So those things obviously will be a part to certain margin compression. but it should not be something haywire or different from what we are doing today.
Got it. So what I was getting at is a 20% post-tax kind of return on capital employed
I'm sorry,
sustainable for you?
number-wise, we're not able to answer you specifics, but yes, I hope you get the idea. So I think that's it. One last question. I think I've read this and we had some emails as well. Some people are wanting to visit our manufacturing plant. It is difficult to entertain that. Two reasons. One, obviously, there are numerous people who would want to see. So even if 10 of you or 100 of you come, then you have some arbitrary information which others might not have. So which is not a healthy situation for other investors. So then there is kind of
And then you will get many calls every day, and then it will be very difficult for us to handle. Because
or maybe we can charge for the factory visits.
then we can create a revenue model, huh?
But it is difficult to entertain visits. But I think if anything different comes up, we can definitely come back to all of you. So okay, Shagun, I think.
But we can do one thing, that let us create a small virtual, we'll create a virtual tour.
Yeah.
And in any of our next investor summit, we can show that virtual video,
That we can.
like we have those virtual videos here.
Yes, we can.
So we can do that. We'll create a virtual kind of audio video presentation, audio video, maybe 8, 10, 12 minutes of videos, and then we can show in any of our next investors call. So that at least you can have a real feel of the company.
Yeah.
So I guess this is for the day. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So maybe Mr. Arya can give the vote of thanks. So at least they are your investors. You should say thanks to them.
Thank you, my investor friends. I wholeheartedly propose a vote of thanks to you also and to my chair also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Wish you good luck and wish you a very happy New Year 2022 coming. And let's pray to God together that this Omicron is end of the Greek alphabets, no further variants coming in. Huh?
So
Thank you.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And if there are any other unanswered questions that you may have, please drop in your emails at investor@rclgeotech.com and we should get back to you on the same. Thank you so much. And we conclude the con call today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.